Alright, so the goal for this one is to do some sort of weapon hack. Either it be recoil, spread, reload time, piercing, or whatever else we can find. So the first thing we want to do is to find the base address of the weapon. We can do that by trying to find something we can modify that could be in the weapon class, like ammo, and then go from there to find the actual base address. So we'll start by doing that. So we have two things we can mess around with. We have the ammo, and then we have, or the total ammo, and the ammo in our magazine. So let's find the address for that. Let me shoot once. Go here. Let's do 9. We can do 7. Oops, 8. And 5. We have 3 left. 2. And it's one of these. So when you see two values like this, it's usually because one of them is the one you're looking for, and the other one is just the game's way of having a value for it to display to the screen. So one of those twos is just the amount of bullets we see here on the screen, and the other one is the actual amount of bullets we have in the player class. So one way we can check which one's actually valid is we do find out what accesses this address, and if we shoot, let's look at these instructions. We have some random compares with some what looks like to be an array, so it's probably not this one. And this one we have something similar as well. Let's check the other one. Hopefully this one looks a bit nicer. And let's shoot. We already have some values, and this looks a lot better because we have a decrease instruction. This is the function that's decreasing our ammo. Now one thing we could do is patch this function out so it doesn't decrease our ammo, and we have unlimited ammo. But the problem with that is that it will probably only patch this specific weapon. Most games use a gun-based class and inherit from that. So the pistol will inherit from the weapon-based class and have its own ammo function. So if we patch this, we would only patch the ammo for the specific weapon type. So instead, we are going to go for the values that those weapons access. So somewhere in memory, there should be a value that tells the shot function how much recoil there should be for a weapon, for example. That way, we don't have to patch out 9 different or however many weapons there are for each individual recoil or stat we want to change. So before we do that, let's actually get the base address for this weapon. So right here we have decrease EAX, and it's dereferencing EAX. So EAX is a pointer. The pointer is from ESI plus 14. So ESI is probably the base class. The base class plus 14 gives us a pointer. If we dereference that pointer, we should get the ammo or the magazine size. Don't remember which one we did. So let's do that real quick. Which one was it? It was ESI. Let's copy that. And then we can put this into reclass and start figuring out what those values actually point to. So in reclass, make a new class. And copy that, paste that address. Let's name it weapon and actually attach to cube. So the first pointer is probably a V table because this probably inherits from the base class, from a weapon base class. So patching it out wouldn't actually work. It would only work for the specific weapon. Like I said before, I think it's 14 supposed to be a pointer, and it's pointing to probably an int 32, which is just the normal int you're used to. And I need to paste this again because I reattached. And there we go. So this is ammo, or let's call it magazine, because ammo is probably the other one. So let's try to decipher what these values actually are. So this first pointer here, I think, is our local player pointer. Yep, okay, so that means this is pointer to our player class, and let's call it owner, which is usually what is the naming convention when you're pointing to the owner of the weapon. Now somewhere around here there's probably the magazine size or the ammo size, so it's probably this one, I'm betting, or the one behind it. Either way, these are all pointers, and this one seems like a pointer pointing to a pistol. It's either an ASCII. Either way, it's pointing to another class instance that we haven't made yet. We'll check that out in a second. Let's name this. Let's make this an int32, and this is definitely our ammo. Let's close all of these so it doesn't look too confusing. Except in this one, which we haven't figured out what it does yet. Let's make it an int32 like the other ones. And let's shoot and see if we see anything change. Move this a bit. So this looks like the gun's wait timer. Maybe because when I reload it's 1400. Yeah, so this is probably the delay for the next shot. So I'm just gonna call it gun weight and leave it as that. After this, do we have anything else that could change? This is changing when we're shooting, so let's call it shooting for now. Nothing special. Shooting with a question mark, because I don't know what it is. And the other one, let me add some bullets. Maybe that other value is if we're loading or not, so let's do 0, and let's add some ammo instead. 1000. Yeah, so this is the indicator that's reloading. So if I'm reloading, it's some value. So let's do in 32 again, and let's do reloading, if I can spell. So it goes to some random value if when we're reloading. It's probably like a timer, or maybe it's supposed to be a boolean. I'm not sure, but let's figure out what these other ones are. So let's close this one. Let's close the ones we know. And then we have the B table here, which looks like actual instructions. So we're right about the B table being there. This is probably another int. I'm gonna guess it's probably weapon ID. We can check that later when we switch weapons. But for now, let's see what this points to. Let's make, this is, which one is this? 2E9, 2E9 is right here. And, wait, I need to copy the address. Let's call it A, paste that address in, and see what we have. We have a name, which is probably the name of the gun. This is what, from the start of this one to the start of that one, that's 23. Yes, that's 23. So make this a text, and it's 23. And from here to the next value, which I'm guessing is all the way up here, let's do 40 something. It's 40, 43, 42, 42. There we go. And then we have a bunch of random values. They all have zeros, but I know there should be some values here, so maybe they're smaller than they actually should be. So let's try making all of these up to here, because this is probably another name. Int 16. So this is short int. And then we have a bunch of actual values now. So I'm guessing this is the thing we were looking for. This is the gun info or gun stats, whatever you're going to call it. Somewhere in here we have the spread of the weapon, the piercing, the reload time, the shooting delay. I don't know what else there could be, but there's a couple values we can change here. And then we have some sort of name, carbine, which I guess is the stats for the next weapon. Before we do that, there's one thing I want to do. Notice how this starts at 17, this starts at 41. Most compilers usually round to 2, like there's spacing in between variables. They don't like odd numbers. It's either 4, 8, or 16 if you're doing kernel. So let's insert 1 byte right after this. So it's an even number. Oops, that is the wrong place to put it. Should be right here. Insert 1 byte. So it's even. And now these values look like they mean something. That's good. It's a lot better than before. So either this is 43 or there's an empty byte here. One of the two. I guess it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to name this class gun stats, because that's probably what it is. Gun stats. And let's try messing around with these numbers. Let's make this 9. What? Oh, it just changed the sound. So if we do 7, that's interesting. Yeah, it's the sound. That's cool. So 8, this is sound. What's the next one? Is this a sound? This is probably a reload sound. Let's try 10. Okay, that's reload sound. I think it was 9 before. And the next one, I don't know what that could be. Well, 1400. From before, that was like the reload time it changed to. So this is probably reload time. Okay, yeah, that's reload time. Next one was the 160. That was the attack delay we saw. So if we change this to 0, let's do 1 so it doesn't crash. I can shoot instantly, so that's definitely attack delay. We saw this with that random number that changed before. The next one, I Don't know what that could be. Let's try 20. Nothing really changed. So let's try the next one. Let's do 1. We haven't checked piercing. Maybe one of these have been piercing. I don't know if I'm supposed to see a bullet hole on the other side, but I don't know. One of these is probably like 1 or 0. It probably indicates whether a weapon has piercing or it's automatic. So let's try this one. I don't know what this is. Turn it back to 0 just in case. Let's try 1 for this one. Don't see any difference. Let's do this one. No difference for that one. This one, let's do 0. See if I can see bullet holes somewhere. I think this one's the spread. So let's do 1,000. Okay, that one's definitely the spread. And some useful ones. Let's try this one. 10, 10, 6, 5, 6. Let's do 0. Don't know what that is. Let's do 0. Oh, that's probably my mag size. Something I changed to 0 here was the mag size. Probably the one that said 10. Is it this one? Was this one the one that was 10? No. It's probably this one. 100. I reload. Okay, so this is mag size. And then we have, I don't know what this was. Let's change this one to big value maybe. Is this recoil? This isn't recoil. This is kick. Kicks you back or pushes you back, or kick or push back. Just gonna put kick. Actually, let's do 10,000. I want to see what this looks like. Which one way you could do a fly hack. Anyways, let's try this one. Let's do 100. Don't know what that did. Let's put this back to 0. After that, we have some big numbers. I'm guessing one of these is bound to be the recoil because we haven't seen that yet. So just so you guys know, most games don't have like a flat recoil for guns. So you start out at what you call a base recoil, and then as you shoot, it increments either with a function. So like in CSGO, it has a spray pattern, it follows a specific function, but eventually, as you keep shooting, it gets to the max recoil. So probably in one of these values we're gonna find the max recoil, the recoil it increases by, and the base recoil, where it actually starts. So that's 3 values. 3 of these are recoil based, hopefully. One of these is probably let's check this one. This one's probably like a boolean. We do 0 here. I don't know what that does. So let's try finding one of these is the recoil. So the max recoil is probably this big value here. Let's try to make it 0, so it shouldn't increase at all. We have no recoil. So this is max recoil. Perfect. This is probably, let's make this back to 50. This is probably the base recoil. I'm just gonna name it already because I'm pretty sure that's it. So if we set it to 0, we should have no recoil, but eventually increments up to 50. I don't know why it's going down. It was 35. And this is the increment. Or recoil step. Like step function. And let's make this -10. See. Okay. So that is it. Put that to 0, and then we have this value here, which I'm not sure what that could be. Let's make this 2000. I don't know. It's like this little, like, pulls me back. So recoil pushback? I don't know what it could be. Oh, it's the recoil snapback. Pushback. I guess that works. And then we have this other value, which I don't know what this is. So let's go back here to weapon. I think this is probably the stats for the next weapon, so let's not mess with that. And I think we have everything we need. Now let's see if we can find this address somewhere in our player. So somewhere in here, there's going to be a pointer to the weapon we're using currently. So here we have a bunch of pointers. There's a pointer here. What was it? It was something with an 8. So one of these pointers is probably it. So let's move our weapon and see if we see one changing. Okay. These 2 pointers are changing when we change our weapon. So one seems to be probably one's the current weapon, one's the previous weapon, one's the next weapon, and the other ones are probably the weapons we can use, or the weapons that are in the game, something like that. So for no particular reason, I'm gonna go for this one. Because it seems to point to the weapon that we're using all the time. I'll probably use the one below it. I'm just gonna use this one. Let's make it a pointer. And let's make that a pointer to the current weapon. So current weapon. And let's see. Let's mess around with the other weapons, see if we can find some other values. Get the sniper. Let's go to gun info. Where is it? Gun stats. Here it is. And there's sniper, AD, whatever that is. Oh, so this one's the name. And this one's the description. Let's make this 0. Test that out. And let's reduce the attack delay to 0. What else could we change? I don't know what that is. Set this back to 1. I don't see any difference. So I don't know what that could be. And let's mess around with this one. After the spread. Let's make this 1. And let's see if it's something to do with piercing. Doesn't seem like it. One of these is bound to be piercing. I don't know which one. Okay. So that's move? I don't I guess we're gonna fly that way. And okay. Let's see what the knife has. Knife has no recoil. Makes sense. Recoil move is 1. Let's do 1000. Make sure it's doesn't work with the knife. That's weird. Kick. And make the 0. See if we can figure out what that is. No clue. And then we have all these 4 values we never figured out what they do. Oh, the first one's probably the damage. Yes, because the grenade does 200 damage. The sniper basically one-shots you, so this is damage. And I'm guessing pistol has no piercing. The sniper, I remember, has some piercing. The grenade probably has no piercing. So I'm guessing this is piercing. Let's do 1,000 here. And let's see. Does it go through? I don't know if I'm supposed to see some sort of gunshot, but this is definitely piercing. Next one after that is... Not sure. The grenade, let's look at the grenade. It has 20. 0. It has 1. And then this one has 0. Oh, I remember I changed the pistol. So it's the only one that has a value is this one. Let's make it... Oops. Let me go back, grab a grenade. Switch to the grenade, and 1,000. One thing I also noticed is that all the values we change are constant, so once I change the grenade stats, even though I got rid of the weapon, it's still, like, we still see the same values. So this seems like these gun info variables are some sort of static variable that are made at runtime, and then the weapons, when they're loaded in, they just use those pointers to those gun stats for the functions. So let's change this to 1,000, and let's see what that is. Seems like nothing changed. So I don't know what that is. Let's try this one. This is 0. This is 1. This is 0. And okay. Let's pick up another grenade. And this is 6. Let's do 7. See if something changes. Nothing. So I don't know what these could be. I guess we don't really need them. We have like the useful ones. Let's close this and let's actually add them to our code. Now there's a couple of ways we can do this. You could, as we noticed before, go back here to gun stats. Seems like all of these are like contiguously in memory. So one thing you could do is find the pointer to the first weapon and then iterate through all of them and maybe give them the best stats or reduce their recoil, increase their damage, their piercing, or something like that. But instead, I think personally, I like the idea of having some sort of window here in our UI menu that we made earlier and making like an editor. So we have the sound, the reload time, all in a little menu that we can change for the current weapon we're using. I think that sounds a bit better than, or at least in my head, it feels a bit better than going through all the weapons and just giving them the best stats. You could do a version of both of them, maybe have a button to max out all the stats and then also have the editor, but I'm just going to do one of them so it's not too long. So let me go here to Visual Studio. Let's go to our generated code. And right now we only have the player. Let's go to process. Where is it? Generate C++ code. Here's our weapon. Let's copy this. I'm not going to copy the virtual functions. Since we're not really using the virtual functions, you need to put some sort of pointer here. Void pointer to vtable. If we had some random function here, I guess we can't put a question mark here, I forgot. We could either put this void pointer to vtable or just have a virtual function here. And it would do the same thing. But since we're not using them, I'm just going to put the void pointer. And now let's do, where's the gun info? Here it is. Gun stats. And We need to update our player class to also have that current weapon. I'm just gonna copy the last part. It's right after team. So it's right here. And so we don't get an error, we have to forward declare it. Or actually we don't, because it's right here. So there's two ways you can forward declare things. You can do them like just like this. And just do weapon pointer to current weapon. Or you can just do it an inline forward declare, which would be this. And gun stats should be before the weapon, since gun stats is in the weapon. And we need to change the name of this to gun stats. And let's do a capital W. And that should be capital and capital. Okay. So let's make a menu for this real quick. Menu. So let's make a new function. Let's call it gun stat settings. I guess not really a settings menu, but should leave it at that. So if we're not showing the menu, we're going to return. Let's call it gun info. Now we're going to check that we actually have a valid pointer to the local player, a valid pointer to the current weapon, and a valid pointer to the gun info. Because otherwise, if we try to access those pointers and they're pointing to nothing, we're going to crash. So let me do that real quick. So if not local player pointer, or not local player pointer current weapon, or we don't have the gun info, then we're going to crash, or we're going to return. So if we don't have valid pointers, we're going to have a little label for it. We're probably never going to get this label, but just in case, let's call it player not found. And we're going to end the tab item so we don't have any errors. Now we have to, let's make a new temporary variable to store the gun info, or what did I call it, gun stats. Keep forgetting. Info is going to be the local player pointer, current weapon, and gun stats. Now we're going to make sliders for each one. Sliders meaning like the thing you can drag left and right. I think we have one already for the smoothing amount, so that type of thing. You can either do that, or I think the other one's like a little menu you can type your number, but I think the slider's a bit. So we have to make a new temporary variable. So which ones do we want to make a slider for? There's a couple. I think I want one for the sound and the reload sound, because that could be funny. Reload time, attack delay, damage, piercing maybe. I don't know if we ever figured out if it worked or not, but try that. Spread and base recoil. So a couple. It's gonna take a bit. I'm just gonna do the first one, and then I'm just gonna pause and do the rest. So we have to make a new temporary variable for it. It's gonna be max recoil, because IMGUI doesn't take shorts. It only does sliders for integers, so we have to cast it to an integer first. So max recoil equals static cast int, and let's do info dot max recoil, and then we do an if statement. So we do the slider here, slider int, let's call it recoil. We're going to pass the address of max recoil, the temporary variable we made, and I think we also need one more thing, and the range of values is to -100 and 100. Do any weapons have more than 100 recoil? I don't know. Let's do 500 just in case. And I think that's it. So we're going to make this an if statement. So if we detect a change in this variable, if we actually use the slider, then we're going to update the max recoil in our info variable, max recoil. So instead of doing this, I just did it like this at first so you get what it does, but instead of having this variable that has the scope as this whole function, what you can do is just cut this and just put it inside here. And it's the same thing but instead the scope of this variable is just going to be inside this if statement, so it's not going to mess with the rest. So now real quick, I'm going to do the rest. Alright, so here I have the rest. Now one thing I want to show you is how you know the specific range for the sounds. Because we can't just use 0 to 500. If we use 500, the game is probably going to crash because there's no sound with 500. So if you go to the working directory of your game and you go to packages, there's a couple things here you can change. By the way, if you ever wanted to change your crosshair, you could just change these images, but that's not the point. So if you go to audio, and this is probably going to be the weapon noises or the weapon audios, and we should have a couple here. And we can just count how many audios we see in here. So count real quick, or highlight, and there's 24. It's here at the bottom. So we can do 0 to 23. And let's do the same thing for the reload sound. 0 to 23. And the rest I just left from -100 to 500, since that's just... it just makes sense. I don't know. I don't know why anything would be below -100 or why you would put anything over 1,000. But let's just leave it at that. And there's one thing I'm missing here. IMUI and tab item, just so we don't mess up our menu. And now we should be able to build this and test it out. Alright, so let's test it out. Let me open a Sol Cube. And let's inject real quick. And we should have a little menu for it. There we go. But anyways, that's gonna be it for today's. And hope this helped. And I'll see you on the next one.